Gardine Wilson, I am going to just go back and give you a formal introduction. Again, Gardine is an accomplished, driven, and passionate individual from Omaha, Nebraska, with roots tied in Mississippi. After breaking a few records in high school, he received a full athletic scholarship to NCAA University in the Midwest. Once Gardine graduated from college, he managed finance department for few Fortune 500 companies in search of his American dream. But at the age of 30, he remembers being like too corporatocratized, if that corporatocracy, and was experiencing that too often. So he decided to take his income and purchase a commercial building. And soon after that, he actually opened Sally Mae's Cafe, which is named after his mother, to spark economic development in his hometown of Omaha, Nebraska in the mid 1990s. But after moving to Charlotte in 2001, he and his business partner saved the historic 1947 Coffee Cup restaurant. All kinds of celebrities have visited the Coffee Cup, ranging from the Temptations, the Isley Brothers, Shirley Caesar, George Foreman, Lisa Ray, Wolfgang Puck, Patti LaBelle, Bobby Flay, Tyler Perry, Michael Jordan, Ray Durham, all kinds of people. So you name it, they've been able to cross his path in that particular restaurant. He also is the father of 2 and the proud papa of 7 grandchildren. So again, welcome, Gardine.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I am so glad to be here. Kim, again, I've seen you doing incredible work in the community. I really, as a sister, I appreciate all that you're doing to uplift our people in our day-to-day journeys and actually bring us closer and closer to the Creator. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being on, and thank you, my studio audience, for being patient with us. We're so excited to have Gardine on today. Now, Gardine, I wanted to give people a chance to just learn more about your history, where you came from. I know you said some things about your mom and your family, and I don't want those things to be brushed over. So take a moment to take us back on your journey again.
You know, when you look at a lot of what is going on between, the riots, the protesters, you look at, some of the things that are happening around the looting. You look at the celebration of what we're actually right up on, which is Juneteenth. You look at everything that's actually happening in the economy. A lot of these things actually are tied to finance. We live in a capitalistic society, and in such, to me, when we actually had a health scare with my mother about 12 years ago, even though we've got masters and degrees, a lot of, not including myself, we actually had no idea, how to navigate financially and how to navigate, this entire financial terrain with a long-term care situation. With my mom's finances, my father passed when I was 19. So we, been kicking in to keep mom put together and whatnot. So that created an incredible challenge. And at the same time, when, navigating through what we did, and by the grace of God, mom actually, got back on her feet. But I thought to myself, how many other families have no idea in our language how to navigate through these incredible financial terrains of life insurance, of long-term care, of investments, you name it. How do we, take advantage of things that are offered to us on our job? Do we even take the time with that thick book that we normally get to actually really go through it and find out what are our benefits? So I immersed myself, began teaching seniors at the YMCAs, and, working with the church communities, and actually referral after referral from one family to the next. God has actually blessed my business to be in a position to actually be a blessing to individuals that actually are in need.
Good, very good. And I know that as a financial advisor, planning advisor, I want people to know what it is specifically that you do. Like what does that entail, so people get a visual that may be considering your services?
Great question. Most people, when they hear the word financial advisor, a lot of people think that if I'm going to sit down and talk to a financial advisor or financial planner, I've got to have a lot of money. I always say, listen, your plan starts from $2, because $2 actually gets to $2 billion if you got the right plan. And so in our community, the issue is that there are less than 2% of all financial planners that are African American. And unfortunately, individuals who actually are insurance agents don't necessarily mean that they actually have went through the proper tests and credentials to be licensed with the SEC and with FINRA and actually be bonded and have, their licenses, really looked at and scrutinized on a state as well as a federal level.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's a difference. Yeah, so it's a difference between understanding what does an actual financial advisor do versus someone who's actually sold me an insurance policy and I haven't heard from them in 30 years or 40 years or whatnot. And so we have to me, it's a huge education gap in our community to understand, first of all, what you have, and, at the moment I am, finishing my studies to get my CFP through Howard University. And there are two worlds when it comes to finance. And a lot of it is actually really just the education, a lot of the education. So as a financial advisor, we sit down and look at your taxation. We look at your estate plan and what you do for your will. We look at, how are you planning for your children's college education? We look at your retirement investments. We look at your current investments. We look at what's going on with your life insurance. What is the plans in terms of purchasing a home? It's really, really similar to being a financial coach. In January, a lot of people ate all kinds of sweet potato pie and they ate all kinds of, turkey and dressing and they ready to get in the gym. So my position is also as a financial coach, I'm with you in the journey. I'm with you in the journey as things actually go, as you actually are trying to make a decision on, do I actually open a business? A lot of people that actually go into business, they're actually going into it from the passion, which is great, but actually having a financial roadmap to get you to the next point is actually always good. I didn't have that when, I opened up, my businesses, and I'm looking back and saying, if we had somebody, you think about a lot of people, especially with these kids, what are you actually trying to do when you grow up? Firefighter, police officer, want to own a business. I want to actually, be a politician, but rarely do you hear any of our children saying, I want to be a financial planner. I want to be a financial advisor. Yeah, and so, those things actually, again, with that, just the industry itself, we're not represented as much as we should be, or as much as we could be, based on the need that we have within our communities.
Wow, that's really good information. So how do you advise people to become financial planners or recommend that? Or do you just say, I'm already a financial planner and I have a team of people that can work with you? What advice do you give people that would be even interested in becoming a financial planner?
Well, coming from the community activist background, and especially, having worked for the government and grassroots communities and things like that, and having a business that actually is in the community, you're in a position to actually feel what's going on with people, and as a specialist on the financial arena, I always equate myself to, like a mechanic. I can get up under the car and change the oil, but if I have to replace the head gaskets and actually do a lot of the deep intrinsic work, I take it to a professional who can actually get that done. As a financial advisor, I've actually went through, over 10,000 hours of planning. I have to take 70 some odd courses every year in order to stay up on what's happening in the industry. And that's what I bring to any couple or any family or any organization that's actually trying to put together a financial plan. And so that's why it's not widely known, because we don't have as many specialists in this industry that we can touch and tap, that are readily accessible. And that's what I'm actually in this whole industry to provide, as a blessing to change the landscape and actually help as many people as I can. So being with Prudential, it gives me an incredible opportunity to actually have a plethora of information. Prudential is, extremely active, especially as it comes to opportunity zones and funds that we've actually done in certain communities like, Baltimore, Atlanta, New Orleans, Memphis, Tennessee. We put, a lot of money into that. We have recently come out about supporting the protesters and the Black Lives Matter movement. And all of that with me actually being on the ground, it gives me the ability to actually touch and actually continue to make sure that I'm, working with my clients as we move forward in their plans and where they're trying to go.
That's interesting too, because like you said, being on the ground right now, we have COVID-19, we have Black Lives Matter, a lot of protesting and things happening. Where does that kind of fit into everything that you do from a financial planning perspective? Does it impact it positively or negatively with what you're doing as a financial planner?
One of the things that was actually happening after the first of the year is that, had some elders and some bishops that have actually asked me to begin working with their congregations and being able to have the conversation. Unfortunately, the industry or financial advisors, planners, or even insurance agents that are out here, what I call churning and burning, it's not been positive in terms of people actually partnering with someone who legitimately has their interests at heart. Mm-hmm. And so with that being the case, speaking to the communities about, and it's amazing how many pastors I talk to who just have created a GoFundMe page to try and bury somebody 2 weeks ago, last month, the month before, because they didn't have proper life insurance. And so having those conversations and actually, especially after the first of the year, being able to uncover money that people already have in their homes. On average, it's really, it's sad, but a lot of people don't understand what type of investments and or life insurance they actually have. If you purchase something 30 or 40 years ago, that may not be what you need today. Right. Because your life continues to move. You go through different life cycles. And that being the case, it's always good to have our children and our children's children in place, and making sure that we actually have some type of inheritance for them as well.
That's good.
Yes, good. Mm-hmm.
That's really good. That's really good. So is there any one specific type of investment that you usually start out with people? Do you say, hey, this is where I recommend you start? Because some people, it's like you don't know where to even begin. And I know I'm representing so many people that are even in my audience and around the country. It's like, where do I start? What's step one for the financial planning process?
That is a great question. Thank you so much for that. The primary step is understanding what you have, understanding exactly what you have. And so it's really interesting in the climate that we have right now. There are so many corporate executives. There's so many funds that have actually been set up because underneath everyone's frustration right now is finance.
Right.
You're looking at a situation right now, we're talking today, in about 2 weeks, you're going to have almost 26 million people that are going to be displaced from federal housing because they're behind in their rent. Right. When you look at Charlotte alone, the moratorium that was put in place, you had over 1,000 evictions that were put on the books prior to the moratorium going into effect. So when the moratorium is released, you actually have, organizations like Crisis Assistance that are overloaded with trying to actually help keep people in their homes. A lot of what's going on now has to do with making sure that people are in a position to know what they have, what the options are, how they're actually able to move, and life insurance, just as an example, is so much more than just putting us in the ground. Life insurance is actually an investment. And we haven't really been taught that. Investments that are currently in 401ks right now have the ability to actually be moved and actually get guarantees as opposed to a lot of the fluctuations that are happening in the stock market. There's in-service distributions that people can actually take advantage of. So to answer your question, there is no one size fits all.
Right.
The first thing is me, when I sit down at the table, I am listening. I'm actually taking in the person's journey because I'm partnering with that person in the next steps that they're actually going to be taking and where they're actually going to be going. So for me, it's me being blessed to be in a position to actually help, me in a position to actually know what I know and apply it and help bless someone. That is the primary reason for me getting into the business that I'm in and being a financial advisor.
That's really good, really good. I'm just typing that there's no one size fits all because you actually customize your approach and you work with your customers hands on and walk them through the process, is what I'm understanding.
Exactly. And in that, there are things that happen. If there's an idea that comes up, a person actually within the family actually gets laid off, someone actually, ends up, getting a prize jackpot, or someone that actually ends up getting a promotion. What is it that we actually do when life is moving? As life is moving, those are really what my clients over the years, the most important value added components that I actually have, not only helping them understand what they have, putting a plan in place. And as things move, the question says, wait a minute, let me call my finance advisor and ask him how I should move about or go about actually moving in this direction. That's where, you see money really being made. Because when you make a bad decision financially, it's hard to come back from that. But
Right.
if you actually have someone that's giving you expert advice, that's forecasting, this is where things are going, that makes all the difference in the world.
And do you have to, is this based on credit or is this like some people, I know I get questions after the show too, and I will go to the flash round, everyone, very soon. So get prepared. I put a link if you're interested in coming on directly. I can pull you into the screen and split the screen for you to ask your question directly right on the screen, or your comment in the comment section, and I'll make sure we post it on the screen for you to get your question answered. Is it credit based though, Gardine?
Well, credit is actually one of the areas that, we look at in relation to, again, credit card bills. It's really amazing. Going into the first of the year, we were at an all-time high in debt.
Right.
You look at, home, debt that we were in, car debt, credit card debt, student loan debt. How is it that we're in a position to actually manage debt? And a lot of people really don't understand, how does my mismanagement of debt affect my credit? And how
Right.
much more am I paying in interest rates? And if I don't have 20% to put down in my plans to buy a home, how much more am I paying in PMI? A lot of those little intricate things actually come to the table when we're sitting down and going through where it is that a person's trying to go. Credit is key, because the difference between you paying 5% versus you actually paying, 3% actually makes an incredible difference over time. You
That's
know,
good.
yes, yes.
That's really good information that you're sharing. So, I mean, right now, what I'm going to do is take a moment and go to the flash round. I've given everyone an opportunity to, you can either type your questions. I'll go beyond the questions where, yeah. So it's a lot of people who obviously confirming, hey, it's okay, Kim, don't stop the show. Just keep going. And they're like, girl, if you stop that show, I'm going to tell you right now, Lydia Best said, you better not stop it. So, fine. So I'm going to skip all of those comments because I can see that you all were trying to help us out. Thank you for being a great audience. And going down to some additional comments. Lydia Best said, this is good. My mom said, good morning to you.
Hey, Mom.
Teresa Mosley said, hey, Gardine, coffee cup is in the house.
Wow, yeah, thank you, thank you.
Yes,
Go ahead. Yeah, the one of the things that also is extremely important is ownership. Ownership. You know, we were privileged. I am so thankful to have been able to meet so many incredible people like Teresa, by having that restaurant, on Moorhead. And our goal was to make sure that we gave the best experience to, anybody that was actually in Charlotte and worldwide. It was an amazing thing. What happened after the land was actually purchased? Of course, Crescent would not sell us the land to actually keep the restaurant there. And uh, when we began looking at this whole ownership situation, even though we make up 48% as African Americans in the metropolitan area, we own less than 2%
right.
of businesses. And when you actually talk about actual dirt land ownership, it's less than that. And so that's one of the things that we actually did was with our partnership group, we actually purchased some land off of Statesville and 85. And we actually had all of the architectural plans and actually were right at the cusp of going through getting the building permits that actually started right before the corona hit.
Right. I saw that. I was reading up on that and I said, oh my gosh, I mean, this cannot be going down. And I saw the talks had started in 2019. The ground was broke. It was, the reopening of Coffee Cup, which was obviously in 1946. Withers Turner had originally opened it, right?
Right. Yeah. And it was whites only at the time that it was originally opened. She was the Myrtle Heath and Will Heath were one of the couple that integrated the restaurant.
I'm excited about that. Yeah, I saw that.
And that was ownership that actually took it to a level where even in the back, we still actually had the kitchen. It was such an incredible place. But when white people actually had to eat in the back of the kitchen, they got to experience what Black people were actually doing every day.
Wow.
And now you actually have a climate where, there are a number of people that are actually in these corporate positions and positions of power that are actually taking the time to actually look at what has been the Black experience. I think that for us, this is an incredible time to actually look at how can we level the financial inequality that exists. And now, if that portal opens up, what do we actually do with it? Bob Johnson actually, of course, he's in the ear of Trump. He's actually proposed $14 trillion and for reparations. And that means $361,000 for every African American that actually is in this country. So if we were actually able to push that through Congress and get that today, what would we do with it?
Right.
Are we spending it, on investing and making sure that our kids actually have some incredible legacy?
Right.
Or are we, spending money, frivolously on things that don't appreciate and things that actually just give us something to feel good over the weekend? So that's financial planning in and of itself and ownership, especially in our communities, especially for a city like Charlotte that is, this incredible gem. How is it that we began to get an ownership? And that's been one of the reasons why it's took this long, was to find the land, to make sure that when we resurrected the place, that it would never actually have to be threatened, actually be tore down, because we own the dirt all the way up to, the sky.
Well, that's exciting. Those are going to be some exciting days ahead. And so now with coronavirus happening, when do you kind of foresee the Coffee Cup resurrecting?
Well, we have put everything on hold through the end of the year, of course, because September you've got the new flu season. And unfortunately, I believe that there's going to be a lot of mischaracterizations, people that actually are dying from the flu. You have almost 200,000 people dying from the flu every year. And I think that those people are going to be mischaracterized as corona versus flu. And then we don't really know because there is no vaccine. So, with a lot of restaurant and friends that I have in the business, they are really, really hurting. And, it's a quiet blessing that we didn't go all the way through with, getting in debt behind it and, being open and, dealing with, all of that, and so we have an opportunity to kind of look at the landscape and actually make a move from there. So, but, financially, like I said, it all gets back to financial equality, financial equity. And, one of the things too that I think that we have to reconcile within ourselves is why are we here? What is it that we've been put here to do? And how do we maximize the time that we actually have here? I've been to your church, your ministry, and you and your husband, incredible. I love the work that you're actually doing, and, putting that spiritual question in front of people. And on my side, the ministry is, now that you've actually got the blessing, let's understand what you have, and then let's actually put a plan in effect that we can move forward on.
I love it. I love it. And Emma Allen, who's with State Farm Insurance, is on. She says she's agreeing with what you're sharing and wanted to give a shout out to you.
Emma is an incredible person. She is in the business. She knows the challenges. She has always been just a gem, just a really serious gem in our community. Hey, Emma, Emma's great people, great people.
Yes, Emma actually puts her money where her mouth is, and her manpower where her mouth is, and she literally goes out of her way to help communities, those that are in need. And this is a great opportunity for me to share with you all. And Emma, you can come on the show too anytime you want. Just type and say, I want to be on the show. You are on. That's a given. But Emma, one thing that I like about her is that recently we did a big gas giveaway in the community. And there were over 50 cars that received at least $20 worth of gas per vehicle. Wow. And Emma Allen from State Farm Insurance is who actually sponsored that whole project in partnership with Quest Church. So I was and not only did she sponsor it, she came out physically and actually helped to pump the gas. So she didn't just send her money. She provided red recyclable bags for people to be able to use when they're going to all these different places that people go to that don't get grocery bags. She provided recyclable bags as well. So thank you, Emma Allen, for always being a great sponsor, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, Emma has always been solid. She actually has been one of my inspirations for getting in this business. You know, watch her do what she's doing, and to launch the agency. I know how difficult it is. You know, and I'm gonna just be candid. You know, speak candidly. You know, it's amazing that there's affluent African Americans who want to do business with Caucasians, and Caucasians who are affluent. They have people in their network that they actually choose to do business with. You know, and it's clearly it's about the relationship. That's and actually overcoming a lot of the objections and overcoming a lot of the stereotypes, prejudice. And like I said, there's not many people in the business doing what we do. And so getting our people to understand how important it is to actually make sure that we have our financial dollars lined up like soldiers, operating the way that they're supposed to, heading in the direction that they're supposed to, is always key. It's always key. And so, that's very, very strong in our community. And I think that, as we're moving forward individually, especially for the listeners that are actually out there, to really understand how to take this time to open up a better understanding, being more authentic, especially those that are working in these corporate situations, being more authentic about who you are, to really navigate, economically, what should you be making? What is your value added? What are you bringing to the table? Unfortunately, I think that as the dust actually settles and these companies actually re-engineer, there are going to also be a lot of people that are actually thinking they're going back to work, that are going to actually look at some of these layoffs going into the next year, primarily because Corona has caused a lot of companies to lose money.
That's right.
And of course, the justification now has actually moved to support the stockholders, the people that's who they answer to. At one time, it was the employees. You had unions in the whole nine. 93, that changed. A lot of that changed in 1993. I think 1993 became the entrepreneurial era. I think that, it was at that time that a lot of jobs began moving overseas. And a lot of things actually went to a stockholder's hands. So, with that, how is it that we actually have a plan B, C, and D? How are we navigating? How are we able to move?
That's really good. Shanae says, great content, Gardine. And Cassandra said everything's great because she's been my behind the scenes person. Thank you so much, Cassandra. For many, it's a tough but necessary conversation, Shanae. Shanae said, Starnes.
All right. Thank you. Yes.
And
so, yeah.
See some other people. People tagging other people. So this is good. Cassandra said, thank you, Gardine, for being on the show today. What advice do you have for parents to give their teens and young adult children regarding financing and owning a business, and how can they do it right? But before you answer that, because I know you were going to make a point, Gardine, make your point, and then when you finish that point, if you can answer that.
Well, actually, I can go directly into this because it ties in. There's a investment group that I've actually started with some gentlemen, that we're kicking off going into the month of mid-July. And the investment group, they're predominantly 19 to 24 years old, African-American men that are actually in college. They've looked at a lot of the things that are actually going on with E-Trade and some of the other stuff with hedge funds, and it can be some serious murky water out there. The investment group in and of itself, though, is actually designed to actually get the basics on understanding the whole financial arena, getting some of the historical context around finances. And actually, I'm really, really excited about this effort, this energy with the young men. At this point, I said to the young men, do we want to invite this, for young women to come in? They said, at this point, let's, stay the course for right now. And at some point, we'll actually, possibly open it up to, yeah. So, I think they don't want to get hormones mixed up in here and get stuff sideways.
You didn't have to have something to yourself, so that's fine.
Yes. So in answering the question, what I see, especially for the affluent clients that actually are, and I have this in my own practice with my clients, is that I actually, in designing the plan for the parents, I also have the children who are teenagers sit in on some of the sessions that I have with the parents. Okay. And even at that point with jobs and what's actually happening with college, I actually began talking and preparing them for retirement investing, and actually even something as simple as getting a life insurance policy on themselves that actually builds in the growth. So then this way, when we sit down, because this is what has happened for hundreds of years, the parents that actually have financial advisor, the children go to that financial advisor when they're actually looking to get married, when they're actually negotiating salaries on their jobs, they actually are looking, to buy a home. They actually get handed off to the same financial advisor. And what also happens in our industry is that financial advisory firms, they teach their children to actually take over these financial firms. And so they actually pick up, generation after generation. And that's how they've actually kept that going. So with the parents, it actually is to get them involved as early as possible. My grandson, he just turned 13. We got him an account set up at Bank of America. He actually has a lawn service that he actually does for about 8 yards right now on the weekends. That's going to pick up now that, it's in the summer. And so it's teaching him now, what is it that you actually do with the money that you actually have? And so he's enjoying the ability to actually go and deposit and look at his statement to see how this thing is progressing. And so we can't start too early or too young. And I think that, one of the blessings having and being a grandparent is when your children are younger and you're actually in the hustle and bustle of actually trying to do your day to day. It's about looking at the gifts that are actually in your children, the spiritual gifts, the academic gifts, the educational, physical gifts that your children have, and actually lean them in the direction to actually get them prepared for a lifestyle. Because I think that, life for them is going to be far different. Look at what's happening with education now. A lot of kids going virtually. How much of a gap is that going to actually do in affecting us? I always think about information, resources, and capital. Relationships are actually, should actually enhance, those areas, and actually we should actually be a blessing to other people.
Wow. Very good. Very good. Lydia Best says, what do you recommend if the business is so slow now that the rent is not being captured via income?
Okay. So, of course, there are a number of, with the CARES Act, a number of the PPP. And I always say, because I made this mistake. You should never mix your personal funds with your business funds.
Right.
Okay. And then again, this is why credit is so important, as it relates to your business credit and your personal credit, to actually be a guarantor. I'm going to tell you another thing that I've actually seen that's actually, had this in practice with clients that a lot of people don't know and don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
A good life insurance policy, what we've actually seen during this time where it's been really crazy, is we've actually had our clients that come in and borrow money from their life insurance in order to support the slow times and whatnot, because most life insurance proceeds, or most life insurance that you borrow in terms of cash value, that's tax-free money. You ain't got to go wait to get approval from a bank, or none of that. That's your money that you actually have access to. And that's why having a good financial foundation is always, a good thing to actually have. And I think, again, the relationship, especially when you're talking about rent, it's always good to have an incredible relationship with your landlord, because when we don't pay rent, the landlord can't actually pay their mortgage. And then you actually have a toppling effect that actually goes all the way downhill. But I think that a lot of people actually understand that this is a really, really incredible situation, circumstance, and we really need to get through this thing together, And I think that it's a lot of people are actually going to be hurting that are, in fact, renting. However, I think that the first relationship is actually to make sure that you have a good relationship with the landlord. And the landlord knows that they're actually trying to work with you, because commercial real estate is going to take an incredible hit. One, because you don't have a lot of these corporate businesses that are going to be renewing their lease. A lot of them are redesigning and going virtual. So with them you look at Google and you look at how many of these companies actually have their whole staff going virtually and working at home. The need for actually paying all of this rent into the commercial space is not going to be as viable. And I think that where people actually have and are leasing out the commercial space, that also should give you some leverage down the road, that, it's not going to be a major market for people that are actually jumping over themselves trying to get commercial properties.
That's really good.
Yes.
Wow,
So
that's good information. So Latasha said, knowledge is power.
Yes.
Lydia Best says, what do you know about the longstanding historically Black insurance business, North Carolina Mutual? It seems to be geared to African-American community. Do you know if it has stayed up with the changes of the time?
I actually met with the gentleman from North Carolina Mutual about 4 or 5 years ago at a social event. And I know that they're still plugging along. I don't know all of the intricacies of what's going on internally there. I think that any person who is, again, financial advisor, someone that's actually out in the community, I think that the first relationship is the relationship, the integrity, the trust that you have when you're actually about to be in front of a person. The other thing that actually is also a piece of that is spiritually, what's actually happening with that person. I mean, it's like people have been praying for a financial blessing. The amazing thing is that if someone is there to be in a position to bless you financially and you're not in the right space, you may or may not receive that blessing. You may miss that person is here to really help. That person is really here to bless. And like I said, because there's not many African Americans that are actually in our industry, it's hard to actually come by. So yeah, I think that we have a lot of work to do in the African American community. We have a lot of work to do. We do. And I think that it all starts, kitchen table by kitchen table, statement by statement, review on, what it is. And I can't emphasize enough to actually every single household and all of your listeners to make sure that you understand, that you know what it is that you have, what you have.
And that's what you would help people identify. It's like, let's pull out everything you have. We're going to pull it all together and say, this is what you need to keep. This is what you need to get rid of. This is what you need to convert to this. And you work with them as their financial planning advisor to take them from point A to point B to point C. And that's what you do.
And that, yes. So let's take a look at a car and 4 tires. Okay. So your front 2 tires could be your life insurance and your taxation. Your rear tires could actually be your retirement investments and your health insurance. Now, when you think about it, if you have a blowout in any of those areas. If you die too soon and you don't have enough life insurance, now people got to put you in the ground. You've lost capital. Your working money is actually not doing what it needs to be doing for you. That's huge. The other side is that if you actually live too long and you don't have your investments in play, now
Right.
you've actually blown out a tire there. You actually are in the middle of making money and you run into a health situation. You don't have proper health insurance.
Right.
Medical bills are actually going to tie into all of that. And when you actually look at your taxation, if you're not paying the proper, taxation, or if you actually are overpaying, or if you have a business and you're not paying at all, you have a major threat there. So it's actually about making sure that all of the tires are actually moving in the same direction properly. And that's why, there are some great insurance agents out there, but having someone who can actually put all of the pieces together is, the best thing, to actually have when you're actually talking about going to the next level and putting a financial plan in effect. And like I said, I think that now you're going to have, especially with the millennials, you're going to have an incredible plethora of young people that are out opening businesses.
Right.
And I actually look at a lot of, the people who are retiring now that have worked 30 and 40 years on their jobs. There's an incredible opportunity to actually bridge that gap in terms of, those people being in a position to help in some kind of way finance what the young person is actually doing. But I think that with freedom comes responsibility. And I think that the culture between our old and young has an incredible opportunity to change the landscape of what we're actually doing financially as a people. Yes.
Yeah. So right now you're working to bring awareness to the community. That's a big push for you. And so
yes, absolutely.
Some of the community projects that you're working on, did you already share them? I know you shared the one with the youth. Are there any others that you're working on that you'd like for the audience to know about as well? Community awareness.
Well, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that question. What's interesting, doing the seminars actually, are great, because you can bring people out, people can ask questions, you can talk, on different subjects. And I had been doing those prior to the whole COVID thing at the Beatty-Ford Road Library. And I did a couple at the West Library here. Yeah, a lot of the work that I'm doing with the pastors and the congregations has been in certain areas of Lancaster, Columbia, Heat Springs, South Carolina. It's interesting because when they tore down the restaurant, and this is my profession, I've been in finance for quite some time. I would actually talk to people about, hey, I'm a financial guy, I can help you put some things together. They'd be like, yeah, but when can we get that macaroni and cheese and then fried chicken? When you gonna reopen that restaurant? Yeah.
That's so true, because I know if I'm meeting with you, that's exactly. I'm like, well, you didn't bring any like any
Why? If you would meet with me, I'll bring some macaroni and cheese to the meeting, But yeah, it's been the restaurant. People in Charlotte are about, Gardine, get that restaurant back up, get them biscuits, get that salmon, go ahead. And we've been working on that and putting an ownership component behind it, because I think that, when you own the dirt, and you actually are making you're making a strong statement, and at the same time, you're in a position to protect. Because I think the worst part about any business closing is the people that you actually have that have embraced your vision in that business. And I think that there's so many incredible businesses that I've seen that have opened and that have actually closed here. And I think that it's, a greater consciousness that actually has to come to where we're spending our money, but also what are we supporting, and how are we actually being a greater part economically of what's happening in the city, as opposed to just being consumers.
That's good. I'm actually typing what you're saying. So if you see me leaning in this, well, I want to make sure people know that as the owner of the Coffee Cup Historic Restaurant, the restaurant is being rebuilt off Statesville Road in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so that's going to be coming soon. So any meeting that you guys have in the future with Gardine, you can also get them to share some a party platter or something, because it's some really good food.
We're working. Yes, thank you, Kim.
The thing is, I also want to make sure, because it's like you are here in Charlotte where I am, but a lot of my audience members are nationwide. They're everywhere that tune into the Jacob Show. is your license specific to North Carolina and South Carolina? And how does that work for other people that are watching today's episode? How does that work?
Great question. I am licensed in other states, like Georgia, Tennessee, that I, do business in. So there's a huge need. We actually right now are working on a national partnership with Black Girls Run. And so with that being the case, of course, that's actually going to expand that partnership and a lot of the states that I'll actually be working in and working on. I'm very excited about anyone that actually has the ability to learn about how am I able to put my numbers and actually put these numbers in a way that actually makes sense and is actually heading in the right direction.
Now, the website that I know you were talking about when we were backstage, are you able to type that in the private chat and I can copy it?
You know what
You can actually go back later right here to and just either email me or something, and I can post it into the comments, your website, so people will be able to get a chance to come directly to that specialized site that they've created for you. Okay.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Someone asked too, can grandparents, not guardians, start life insurance plans that grow for their grandchildren without having to get the parents' permission? That's a good question.
Yes, grandparents do have a vested interest in ensuring their grandchildren. I do have some clients who are grandparents who've actually gotten into life insurance for the grandchildren, which in a lot of ways, the way that the life insurance policy in and of itself is designed to grow will actually create a nest egg for that child. When I was in college, we actually had some of the kids on college that were living off campus and that were driving sports cars and actually digging into the question about how did all of this actually happen? Because we was actually trying to put together $5 to actually buy a pizza when I was in college. 3 of us, you can imagine athletes trying to get one pizza to actually, and found out that a lot of that was behind their grandparents actually putting life insurance and investments in play for their, for these kids when they were born. It starts that early, putting these plans in effect. And I think that, again, I know that with our community, once we know better, we actually can move in that. Like Mrs. Ng said, when you have knowledge, you actually have power, and especially when you're in a position to implement that. So with that, yes, the answer to the question is yes, grandparents can, and definitely, give me a call and I can actually direct you in how we can actually get that started.
That's really good, because I know my mom, she has policies for all her grandkids, and you don't really know how important that is until something happens. And so when our son Gabriel passed away, that we were just overwhelmed, because I was like, this is not something that any parent ever prepares for mentally. You just can't. You cannot. And I don't want to go too far into it right now, but my mom actually had a policy in place that I was like, what? My mom had a policy, and she was able to pull from that for our son. And so as a result of that, now we have like riders and other things that we've become aware of and learned about. But that's stuff that you have to be educated about.
Yes. And I was, again, I remember seeing you shortly after. I was so sorry to hear about your son and, the project and the nonprofit that you started in his name. And this is when, it is real. I just actually had this exact situation happen less than 2 weeks ago. Grandmother had, definitely got policy on herself, and she, ended up having this on her granddaughter. And unfortunately, the granddaughter passed, and so, yeah. And, with that, of course, clearly an incredibly sad situation for the family to actually grieve. And she was like a week from her 21st birthday. But, now that son, who was 2 years old, he'll actually be in a position to have a life that will, actually be taken care of, especially for college education and for those things that he actually is wanting to do when he gets of age, just because the grandmother actually made a decision to make sure the granddaughter was taken care of.
That's an amazing grandparent that makes that decision to make sure that something way down the future that no parent could even be thinking about per se, when it's needed, is kicking in at that level. And I know my mom had like whole life insurance policy for all of my children and all of her grandkids, whether it's my children or my brother's children or my other brother's children. They just all of them have life insurance in some regard through my mom.
Right.
And so this is your website too. Thank you so much. I'm going to give a shout out to the person that shared it, but it's www.prudential.com/advisor/Gardine-Wilson. That's where you'll be able to get directly to his website to learn about the different services that's offered. And let me put that up from Latasha, who's the one that, way to go, Latasha. It's on prudential.com/advisor/Gardine-Wilson. So that's where you would be able to get his information. Any last comments, thoughts? Oh, I have to make sure I share this too, because it's a side note. Selwyn Davis said, tell Gardine he had to teach him how to make those biscuits. You had to teach Selwyn how to make some biscuits, he said.
Yeah. So Selwyn taught me a few things like the marquois and some of these other things that don't let Selwyn fool you. Selwyn got some skills in the kitchen though.
Selwyn taught you how to make the biscuits.
That's what he says. I think when he first did it, we used them for hockey pucks. But he improved his skills as he spent a little bit more time, around people like Miss Joyce. So
Teresa Mosley, I'm telling you, anybody that has her working in an establishment, she's just such a joy. Every time I went to, I was at the Original Pancake House sometime. This woman but I met her at the Coffee Cup. And I was like, oh, wonderful. Her customer service was exemplary. So I just love Teresa.
Miss Teresa is amazing. She is family. I'm telling you, she's incredible. Incredible. And she still actually got them rocking and rolling over there. We're going to stature them. When we get going, I already put her on notice. Teresa, you got to come back. You already know what the deal is.
Teresa has to be involved, bottom line. So I'm trying to find her comment. What did she say? Hey, Teresa.
But Teresa. But I would actually say that, at this time it's really, really important. I think that one of the things that I actually see on the backside of what's actually going on is, in the first couple of weeks, there were over $5 trillion that was pulled out of the stock market. And a lot of us are not, for the most part, involved in stocks, except that we have 401ks. Okay, let's not, if you have a 401k or 457 or 403b, you're invested in most cases in the stock market. And so a lot of people don't even get reviews on what's happening with the 401ks. Here recently, within the past week or so, the stock market has actually come back. 401ks have actually, dropped down almost 47% and they're back up. There's opportunities as that has actually peaked. Now, because of a lot of the reports in coronavirus cases, those 401ks are actually on the way back down. And unfortunately, like I said, a lot of people don't get a review. They don't actually know, but this is your retirement investment. The other thing around the CARES Act is giving people an opportunity to actually pull some of that money if necessary in order to shield them from some of the economic hardship that's actually going on. As I said, I think that this, if any other time, we need to actually have our personal finances and our houses in order. It's amazing how God has actually slowed down earth.
Everything.
And it's actually got people back at home. You see, relationships being restored with children. You actually have more balance in time and quality. And at the same time, finances is very key in making sure that drive and that journey is actually doing what it needs to be doing. So I am actually really excited, love all the clients that I've actually had and the clients that I actually have yet to be, because I think that it's a blessing to be in a position to bless someone, especially when, you've actually went through what's necessary in order to get your skills and everything. And I'm still learning myself, so we'll continue to move forward in this journey together, because as the African proverb says, if you want to go fast, you can go alone. But if you want to go far, we should actually do this together. So
That's
I
really
am extremely happy, and thank you for actually giving me an opportunity to share with you and with the viewership and the audience. I'm a servant to actually help. Thank
well.
you.
You're a great servant. And a few more comments. I went a little longer because we had so many technical issues at the beginning. So I was like, I'm not going to dare take away from your interview. And thank you all for staying on today. I appreciate it. Let's see here. Lydia Best says, how could a person become an agent such as yourself?
Give me a call directly. We can actually talk about that. I know, there's always room for someone who actually has a passion to get in to this business. And I've actually, again, coached people that are actually doing well in the business, not just here, but in some of the other states as well. So if you're interested, I'll be more than happy to help, share anything that I can.
All right. My sister Ruth is on, Ruth Jacobs. And she actually just recently recovered from and rung the bell from cancer. So to God be the glory that she is.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and Lydia Best said, thank you. Okay, guys,
All
listen,
right.
this has been a great, informative show. And I'm very glad, again, from a balance perspective, I'm trying to always make sure I provide information that helps people from every angle of life. Whether, I mean, as long as it's real, relevant, relatable to my audience, I want to make sure that it happens on this show from cradle to grave and even beyond. So thank you for providing that information and the resources today on the Kim Jacobs Show. And if there's one last thought that you want to share, sometimes people get off and they're like, dog, I knew I should have said this and I didn't say it. And you can take this moment to say it now. And we're going to, before you say your closing thought, because that's how we're going to end today's show. Listen, guys, if you are interested in the information that's being shared on the Kim Jacobs Show, the only way for me to be able to provide more content of this magnitude and any episodes that I'm able to provide is to get the viewership to say, hey, these are people that are interested in receiving this information. So I am asking you to subscribe to the Kim Jacobs Show. Take a moment and subscribe to the Kim Jacobs Show. You can go to youtube.com and you can type in the Kim Jacobs Show, or you can use this specific link. And I encourage you to subscribe and turn on your notifications, because my brother Javon was telling me, well, you don't ask people to subscribe enough, Kim. I was like, oh, I don't. I'm antiquated, so I was like, why do I have to keep asking? I already said it once last year. So I was like, oh, I need to say it more frequently. So all of you that watch all of these shows, and there's a lot of you that watch them, if you could take a moment and subscribe to the Kim Jacobs Show on YouTube. Turn on your notification bell so that you get alerted when the Kim Jacobs Show is live. I greatly appreciate it. So Gardine, close us out today. And thank you for being my special guest. You were wonderful and so patient. So thank you.
Well, Kim, thank you again. I have many prayers and blessings that your show will continue to actually reach people throughout the world as you and your husband and your ministry already has. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity. If I could emphasize, make sure that you understand what it is that you have. Where there's information that will actually help guide you, seek a professional that is actually willing to partner with you in your financial journey. And so with that, thank you again so much for giving me an opportunity to be with you and the audience at this time.
There you have it, everyone. Gardine Wilson, 704-421-7826. Reach out.